Before you scroll away, I need you to ask yourself something uncomfortable. What if the woman you can't stop thinking about has already shown you exactly how she feels, but you didn't recognize it? Because most men are taught to look for loud love, obvious love, the kind that announces itself. But real, consuming love from a woman, it doesn't always look the way you expect. It's quieter, deeper, and if you miss it, you don't just lose her. You lose the version of her that would have chosen you over everything. So before we go any further, take 1 second, subscribe to the channel, like this video, because what I'm about to share with you is not surface-level dating advice. This is the psychology most people never talk about, and once you see it, you won't be able to unsee it. Now listen carefully. When a woman loves you madly, not casually, not temporarily, but deeply, it changes the way she moves in your presence. It changes how she speaks, how she reacts, even how she fights with you. And the dangerous part is, these signs don't always look romantic. Sometimes they look confusing. Sometimes they look like contradictions. That's where most men fail. They misinterpret intensity as instability. They mistake emotional investment for drama. And slowly, they start pulling away. Right when she's giving the most real version of herself. A woman who truly loves you doesn't just like you. She begins to emotionally build her world around you. And no, that doesn't mean she loses herself. It means she starts integrating you into parts of her life she protects from everyone else. You'll notice it in small, almost invisible shifts. The way she remembers things you forgot you said. The way her mood subtly responds to yours. The way she watches you, not just looks at you, but studies you like you matter. And here's the truth most men aren't ready to hear. When a woman reaches that level of emotional depth with you, she becomes both stronger and more vulnerable at the same time. Strong enough to stand by you, but vulnerable enough to be hurt by you in ways she would never allow from anyone else. If you don't understand that balance, you will mishandle her without even realizing it. And that's exactly why you need to pay attention to what comes next. There's a moment, subtle, almost invisible, when a woman stops just experiencing you and starts choosing you. Not because you're perfect, not because you said the right lines, but because somewhere deep inside her, you've become emotionally significant. And when that shift happens, one of the first things she begins to do is something most men completely overlook. She starts paying attention to your unspoken world. I'm not talking about your words. Anyone can listen to words. I'm talking about your silences, your pauses, the way your energy changes when something is bothering you. A woman who is casually interested will hear what you say. A woman who is deeply in love will feel what you don't say. She'll notice when your tone drops slightly, when your responses get shorter, when your mind is somewhere else, even if your body is right in front of her. And here's the part that matters. She won't always call it out directly. Instead, she adjusts. She might soften her voice. She might give you space without making you feel abandoned. She might try to bring lightness into your mood without making it obvious she's trying. And sometimes, she'll just sit with you in silence, because she understands that your quiet doesn't need fixing, it needs understanding. This level of emotional awareness doesn't come from attraction. It doesn't come from temporary excitement. It comes from investment. Because when a woman loves you madly, your internal world becomes important to her. Not just what you show, but what you hide. And here's where most men make a critical mistake. They assume she's overanalyzing. They think she's reading too much into things. They brush it off, or worse, they shut her out even more. What they don't realize is, she's not trying to control them, she's trying to connect with them. And every time you dismiss that effort, every time you act like her emotional awareness is unnecessary, you slowly teach her that understanding you is a losing game. So she begins to pull back. Not because she stopped loving you, but because she's protecting herself from feeling unwanted in your world. A woman who truly loves you will try to understand you before she tries to be understood. The question is, will you recognize it, or will you mistake it for something it's not, and push away the one person who is actually paying attention? There is a deeper layer of love that most men never recognize until it's already slipping away. And it starts with something very simple: her tolerance for your imperfect moments. Now listen carefully, because this is where psychology becomes uncomfortable. A woman who is casually involved with you will enjoy your best self, your confidence, your humor, your charm. But a woman who loves you madly, she stays present even when you are not at your best. Not because she is blind to your flaws, but because she has emotionally accepted that you are a full human being, not a performance. She sees you irritated, she sees you tired, she sees you confused about your own direction in life sometimes. And instead of withdrawing, she often leans in closer, not to fix you, but to stay with you. This is one of the most misunderstood forms of emotional attachment. Because many men assume love is proven through constant positivity, but real emotional bonding is proven in inconsistency, in human moments, in days where you are not impressive at all. And here's what happens when a woman reaches that stage of love. Her nervous system starts to regulate around your presence, meaning your energy begins to influence her emotional state more than external environments do. She feels calmer when you're near, more unsettled when you're distant, not because she is dependent, but because her emotional attachment has become real. And this is where danger enters the picture if you don't understand it. Because once she starts loving you at that depth, she also starts noticing how you treat her during your low moments. She notices if you become cold, if you disappear emotionally, if you shut her out when you are stressed. And if that pattern repeats, something very quiet happens inside her. She starts learning to self-protect. She won't always argue, she won't always complain, but she will slowly reduce emotional availability, not as punishment, but as preservation. And you might not notice it until one day she feels emotionally further away than you ever expected. Not because she stopped loving you, but because she stopped feeling safe expressing it fully. A woman in deep love doesn't just respond to how you treat her on your good days. She remembers how you made her feel on your worst ones. And that memory shapes everything that comes next. One of the clearest psychological signs that a woman loves you deeply is something most men completely underestimate. She starts investing emotional energy into your future without being asked. And no, this is not about marriage talk or long-term planning in the obvious sense. It's much more subtle and much more revealing. She starts thinking in we language without forcing it, not because she is trying to trap you, but because her mind naturally begins to include you in her inner world. She'll mention ideas like what you could do together in the future. She'll ask questions about your goals, not in a polite way, but in a genuinely invested way. She will remember your ambitions even when you forget them yourself. And here's the part most men miss. She starts emotionally rehearsing life with you. That means she begins to imagine your reactions in certain situations. She begins to picture how you would respond to things she experiences. She begins to mentally simulate a shared life, even in small, everyday scenarios. For example, she might see something random and think, he would like this, or he would laugh at that. That is not casual attraction anymore. That is emotional integration. But here is where it becomes psychologically important. A woman doesn't invest her future-thinking energy lightly. It requires emotional safety. Because imagining a future with someone creates vulnerability. It opens her up to disappointment if that future collapses. So when she does it consistently, it means she has already crossed a threshold internally. You are no longer just someone she is dating. You are someone she is emotionally planning around. And yet, this is also where many relationships quietly fail. Because men often respond to this kind of energy with indifference, or uncertainty, or emotional distance. They don't realize that her future thinking is not pressure, it is bonding. And when that bonding is not reciprocated, even in small emotional ways, she begins to recalibrate. She doesn't stop caring overnight, she doesn't suddenly disconnect. Instead, she slowly stops projecting you into her future. She brings her imagination back to herself. And once that shift happens, everything changes. Because a woman who no longer imagines you in her tomorrow will slowly stop emotionally investing in your today. And by the time most men realize it, she has already begun detaching in ways that are hard to reverse. There is a form of love that doesn't announce itself with words. It reveals itself through protection. And when a woman loves you madly, One of the most powerful psychological shifts you will notice is how she starts to protect your emotional image in ways you don't even ask for. She doesn't expose your weaknesses to others. She doesn't turn your private struggles into public stories. And even when she is upset with you, she is careful about what she says about you outside the relationship. Now, this is important because casual attraction doesn't carry this weight. Casual interest will share, vent, and move on. But deep love develops emotional boundaries around you, almost instinctively. She becomes selective with your story. Not because you control her, but because she feels emotionally connected to how you are represented in the world. It becomes personal to her how others perceive you. And here's the deeper layer most men miss. She starts defending you when you are not present. Not always aggressively, sometimes subtly. Sometimes just correcting a misunderstanding. Sometimes just changing the narrative so you are not misjudged unfairly. This is not obligation, it is emotional loyalty. But at the same time, this protective instinct also extends inward, into how she protects herself from you. Because a woman who loves deeply is also observing patterns. She notices consistency. She notices emotional availability. She notices whether she feels secure in expressing herself without being dismissed or misunderstood. And when she feels safe, she softens more. But when she feels emotionally exposed or unprotected in return, she begins to build quiet internal walls. She may still laugh with you, still talk to you, still show up. But something subtle changes. She stops fully relaxing into the relationship. And that is the beginning of emotional distance. Not loud distance, not dramatic distance, but controlled distance. The kind you don't notice until intimacy starts to feel slightly less natural, slightly less effortless, slightly less alive. A woman who truly loves you will protect you in public, but she will only remain fully open with you in private if she feels emotionally safe doing so. And the real question is not whether she loves you, it's whether your behavior makes her feel safe enough to keep loving you out loud. There is a point in a woman's emotional attachment where love stops being just a feeling and starts becoming a behavioral pattern. And one of the most revealing signs of this is how she responds to conflict with you. Because here is the truth most men misunderstand. A woman who loves you madly does not avoid conflict. She engages with it differently. A casual connection tends to escape discomfort. It shuts down. It disappears. It becomes distant or indifferent when tension appears. But a deeply attached woman, she stays emotionally present even when things are difficult. Not because she enjoys conflict, but because she is still invested in resolution. She wants to understand what changed. She wants to repair the emotional gap. She wants to bring the connection back to balance. And even when she is hurt, there is still an underlying pull toward you. But here is the subtle psychology behind it. In deep emotional attachment, conflict is not just disagreement. It feels like emotional disruption. So her response is not just about the argument itself, it is about the relationship feeling temporarily unsafe. That is why you might notice she becomes more expressive, more emotional, sometimes even more intense, because she is trying to restore emotional connection, not just win a discussion. And this is where many men misread the situation. They assume intensity means instability. They assume emotional expression means exaggeration. So they shut down, they go silent, they withdraw, or they try to end the conflict quickly without emotional repair. But what she is actually looking for is not perfection. It is reassurance. Reassurance that the connection still exists underneath the disagreement. Reassurance that emotional closeness is not being withdrawn as punishment. Reassurance that she is still safe in expressing herself without losing you emotionally. And when she doesn't receive that reassurance repeatedly, something very important shifts inside her. She begins to change how she argues. Less emotion, less urgency, less effort to repair. Not because she cares less, but because she is learning that emotional investment is not being met with emotional safety. And this is one of the most critical turning points in any relationship. Because a woman who once fought for emotional closeness will eventually stop fighting at all. Not because love disappeared, but because effort no longer feels emotionally rewarded. And when that happens, the relationship doesn't end loudly. It ends quietly, through emotional resignation. There is one final sign that separates surface attraction from deep emotional love, and it is the hardest one for men to recognize because it doesn't always look romantic at first. It is consistency in presence, even when nothing exciting is happening. A woman who is casually interested shows up when there is stimulation, attention, excitement, novelty. But a woman who loves you madly, she shows up in the ordinary. She texts you about small things that don't matter to anyone else. She checks in when there is no reason to. She stays emotionally engaged even when the conversation is not entertaining or dramatic, because for her, connection itself has value. And this is where emotional reality becomes very important. Love is not only measured in big moments, it is revealed in maintenance, in how someone behaves when nothing is being gained, when there is no immediate reward, when the relationship is simply existing in its normal state. A woman in deep love will also show something even more subtle: emotional prioritization. That means, without saying it directly, you start to become a reference point in her decision-making. Not in a controlling way, but in a natural way. She considers how things affect the connection. She considers how distance or closeness might feel between you both. She adjusts her behavior slightly to maintain emotional harmony. And yet, here is the most misunderstood part. This kind of love is not fragile because it is weak. It is fragile because it is deeply invested, which means it responds strongly to emotional neglect, inconsistency, or lack of awareness. If she feels emotionally unseen for too long, she doesn't explode immediately. She doesn't always complain. Instead, she begins a quiet internal shift. She stops initiating as much. She stops sharing as freely. She stops emotionally extending herself in the same way. And by the time most men notice, what they are experiencing is not absence of love, but reduction of emotional access. Now listen carefully to this final truth. A woman who loves you madly does not need perfection from you, but she does need emotional presence, consistency, and awareness that her feelings matter in real time, not just in hindsight. Because love does not fail suddenly. It fades in the spaces where it is not noticed, not held, and not emotionally returned. And if you remember nothing else from this, remember this. The difference between losing her and keeping her is often not how much she loved you, but how well you recognized it while it was still there.